Hey there YouTube, hello, and welcome to another Nikke video. I know I've been out for a while, can't be helped, honestly. It's been busy days overall, so to begin with I will not record the Perilous Siege event, the one featuring D, basically, but nonetheless, here we are. I couldn't miss the chance to record the OverZone event. This was the OverZone event. Well, it still is. It's not yet ended, so yeah, there is that too. I forgot to say, it's been a really nice event for the half anniversary.
Ooh, I can't wait to spend more time with you. So hop on over here. Quick.
Okay, Alice, let's go. Let's actually go. Hello guys, it's Elder here. Well, a few of you already know me. You guys have been around with me on my streams, which I really do appreciate. It's a huge help for me. It basically motivates me to continue doing what I'm doing, like streaming, recording, all that. And well, like I was saying, this is all about the OverZone event. Let's get there actually. So here we are. This is an introduction to the event. It's been one really freaking good event. It's even got a map, or much like the Christmas and the Chainsaw Man collab. I mean, it's pretty obvious that we were gonna be given a map. It was a given in my opinion, because it's a pretty important event if you think about it. Oh, I see a lost relic over there.
Moving out.
Be sure, guys, to check out the entirety of the map for your lost relics. You don't want to miss on those. You're gonna be getting BGMs, event currency, gems, and you sure don't want to miss out on those. So if you haven't collected any of this yet, be sure to check out any of the maps that other fellow content creators have been making. I did an attempt to create this, but I find I just couldn't make it. I didn't have the time for it to be consistently done, because of work matters, life matters, so there was that. But nonetheless, I am super thankful to all the people out there who have been compiling the maps as they have come out with the lost relics, because all of them are a huge help for people like me or you who don't really have the time to be exploring around and finding the relics. So well, given today is the last day of the event, actually, there, as you can see down here, there are 19 hours left for the event to finish, so be sure to get every possible thing on time. Actually, I'm gonna do the story first. I mean, I'm gonna just yeet this. I'm gonna grind the stages and be sure to catch all of this, because it's gonna be necessary for further grinds. In my particular case, in this account, what I need the most are the core dusts. You will eventually find yourself too at that stage where you need core dust like water in the desert, pretty much. So yeah, gotta check out everything, right? Also be sure to grab your mission collectibles. Well, for this particular video, I want to do the wide memory. Let's actually explore the event completely, regardless that I still have to advance in the middle, but let's see. First, we can stand guard, literally not do anything else. So Snow White will just stay at the outpost. Like it says there, Snow White feels that conditions are not ideal, so she calls off today's expedition and returns to her post. Then we check the result. course, this ending has already been recorded for me, so it's no news, but you guys might be a little different story. The idea of this was to do it daily, because you will obtain 30 gems, 1 red ticket for bonds, right? And of course, those in turn across the days are a lot of rewards, so you pretty much want to make sure to collect all of them on time. Then we're presented with the forest. Here in the forest, we're given a picture of a deer. Snow White approaches the forest despite the seemingly endless internecine conflict between men and raptures. The forest remains a bastion of life. As Snow White gazes upon the forest, a deer suddenly leaps into view. So here you're presented with 2 choices, either shoot it with the anti-ship rifle or with an ordinary rifle. This will lead to the very second ending. So the first one will be the outpost, of course. Then says, tendrils of flame belch out of the anti-ship rifle's muzzle. However, as the flames die down, the deer is nowhere to be found. The shot also attracts raptors, and Snow White is forced into a confrontation. I mean, who would shoot a deer with an anti-ship rifle? Only Snow White could. The sounds of the battle only attract more raptors. It takes everything for Snow White to subdue the threat. In the end, she goes back to the post empty-handed. So that's your first ending in the forest, which is a bad ending, actually. Going hungry today. Then, as for the other alternative, you can shoot with an ordinary rifle, and the deer is blown apart anyways, because even though it's a regular rifle, Nikke rifles are meant for raptors anyways, so they are powerful enough to blow apart any biological being. Like, literally blow them out. So having newly discovered the fragility of ungulates, Snow White decides to walk around the woods and find alternative hunting tools. So here you're presented with 3 choices. Turn right, proceed straight ahead, or turn left. If you turn right, the ground is covered with mushrooms that have brilliant red patterns. Thus, Snow White begins to pick the mushrooms. He wonders if she should do a taste test before bringing them to her colleagues. I mean, that makes sense. So you can either taste them or don't taste them. Let's choose to taste them. See what happens. He feels somewhat hesitant about sharing food with others that hasn't been tested. She puts a mushroom in her mouth. Suddenly, a white fog envelops her. A female figure can be made out amongst the fog. It is someone whose face she has longed to see for some time. Snow White. Someone calls out. Snow White opens her eyes. The white fog has dissipated. After making sure she hasn't sustained any injuries, Snow White realizes something. The mushroom she ate made her hallucinate. Snow White contemplates if she should eat the mushroom again. Although she can't explain why exactly, she wants to see that woman her hallucination again. After hesitating for a while, Snow White decides she can either eat the mushroom or not eat the mushroom. It is actually a thing to choose either of them. So let's go with it. After ingesting some more of the mushrooms, Snow White sees 2 flowers amidst the fog. One is white and the other is red. Which one to follow? So, here, originally, for you to be able to choose the red flower, you will have to achieve the ending meaningless hallucinations, which is the white flower way. Snow White heads toward the white flower and sees a white figure. The faceless figure asks, "Can you see me?" If you haven't achieved the ending to bid you farewell, you will not be able to choose yes, so you have to choose no. Dark crash, Snow White stumbles over a tree stump and tumbles to the ground. After waking up from her hallucination, Snow White still wants to see that face that may or may not be a figment of her imagination, so she eats some mushrooms again. No matter how many mushrooms Snow White ingests, the face she longs to see remains forever indistinct. Snow White spends the entire day lost in meaningless reveries. So that is the ending, Meaningless Hallucinations. And if you're not yet ready, try following the other flower. That was the hint for when you will have to choose between, I think it was the red or white or follow on the fall, not sure, but it was key for choosing one of the endings. Let's go again. So, we shot with ordinary rifle, right? We turned right. Then we tasted the mushroom. After that, we went again and ate the mushroom. Then we chose the white flower, but this time you are able to choose the red flower because you got meaningless hallucinations. So let's get the red flower. Snow White heads toward the red flower and hears the buzz of a radio. An old song is being played. Someone can be heard humming along to the song. They sound homesick. Suddenly, a long-forgotten memory comes rushing back to her. She used to listen to songs with Red Hood, who loved old songs. Hello, little one. Snow White was in a terrible mood that day. So many of those close to her had lost their lives. Snow White could never forget their eyes as they died, filled with fear and a hint of relief. As the music continues to play, Snow White walks up to Red Hood. Why do you look so solemn, little one? You're going to give yourself wrinkles if you keep crunching up your face like that. Red Hood says with a grin. Stop doing that. Take a look at this. Red Hood brings the radio closer. It is playing a song about missing one's hometown. It's an old guitar-centric pop song, which didn't suit the battlefield at all. This song is nice, right? This is what music is all about. Red Hood attempts to coax Snow White. Want to try singing it? Did Snow White sing with her back then? He cannot remember. That's more like it, you dork. You act like an old geezer. Really? Red Hood's laughter and the music are the only sounds that linger in Snow White's ears. Snow White trips over a tree stump. He wakes up from her hallucination and sees a tent, a broken radio, and a cassette tape near the tree stump that she tripped over. Wait, what? A cassette tape? Dude, that's actually older than me. Holy shit. Snow White keeps the cassette tape and begins humming the song she heard in her hallucination. Oh, the hometown I long for, the friends I miss. Even if the sky above us is forever gray, we will return to our hometown someday. I don't know if the song, if that's a thing actually, so sorry for that. Slash not sorry. So we got the ending Retro Hood, and with that we also get a cassette. I don't really want to delay too much the video, so I'll just go with the rest of the endings. So again, we shoot with the rifle, we turn right, we taste the mushroom. If you don't taste it, you just go back, by the way. If you taste it once, sorry, and then don't eat, you just go back also. So let's eat the mushroom. Let's go again for the white flower. And let's say yes to the figure. The white figure smiles. If you want to see me, you should come to meet me, Snow White. Snow White opens her eyes. A towering tree stands before her. Something about this all seems oddly familiar. Snow White looks at her feet. As she does, a long-forgotten memory comes rushing back. On a day when the fighting had no end in sight, she came over with a memory capsule and a sheet of paper. Everyone, write down your wishes on these and place them in this memory capsule. They tore the sheet of paper into 7 pieces, wrote down their wishes, and placed them in the capsule. He buried the memory capsule in the ground and spoke. One day, when our job is finished, let's open it together. Under that enormous tree, she made a promise that will never come true. Snow White takes out the memory capsule buried in the ground. There are 7 pieces of paper inside. I hope everyone is still alive after the war. I'm willing to follow the red flower until the very end. I hope that one day everyone will know our names. I want some food and alcohol from my hometown. I hope that we will emerge victorious. I hope she will be safe and sound. After reading 6 of the clippings, Snow White opens the last one, which has been neatly folded. It's hers. I hope we can save the humans. Snow White considers the last words she ever wrote. I hope we can save the humans. Snow White returns the slips of paper to the capsule and stands up. To commemorate her, Snow White decides to go to the meadow where she is buried. The irony, bro. I have to say. What an irony. Alright, let's go back to the forest. So let's shoot with the ordinary rifle so we can advance. Then we proceed straight ahead. Walking forward, Snow White discovers a wooden cabin. She heads inside to look for any useful items. The cabin is entirely bereft of food and supplies. However, Snow White can ascertain from the antlers hanging on the wall and the bear skin on the floor that a hunter resided here. Scrawled directly on the table in red are the words, "Don't be the prey." Snow White turns and heads back into the forest. Having newly discovered... Okay, we just went back. So now we turn left. Oh wait, let me check. I believe I left something unchecked here, but I'm not certain. So pretty sure I did go with the red flower. Yo, I almost go wrong. What if we go the white flower? Yes. Oh yeah, we already did this part. My bad. Go for the red flower. It is the radio. Oh, okay. I had already done it. I'm sorry. Alright, let's go to the forest again, but this time we will turn to the other side. I think it was to the left this time. Yeah, we gotta turn left. So on the left, Snow White sees a chain link fence. She walks towards it, intending to snip it into separate parts that could be used to make traps. He approaches a metal fence and sees a corpse draped over the top of it. The body is clothed in a camouflage outfit and carrying a bow in a backpack. By the way, when that pop-up came up is because she picked up some metal wire. Snow White cuts down the metal fence and sets the corpse on the floor. The duffel bag contains electrical wires, a phone, dry rations, a pail, and a map. Snow White looks at the bow and arrow. These weapons, along with the camouflage, might prove useful for hunting. He contemplates whether she should take them. So you can either put down the bag and leave, or take everything. Right? So the better choice here is to take everything, because if you just put down the bag and leave, it will lead to a bad ending, actually. Snow White doesn't want her survival to come at the expense of someone else's life, so she decides to put down all the hunting props and leave. She prepares to hunt. She starts to set up a trap using the metal wire she got from the fence. Being proficient with crafting, she succeeds in making a trap and resumes her hunting once again. Snow White returns to the spot where she saw the deer and sets the trap. The bleats of a deer can be heard in the distance. He decides to hide behind a tree and watch. To conceal herself, Snow White... So if you decided to leave the bag right there and not pick up anything, you won't be able to choose to wear the camouflage outfit. Instead, she will have to cover herself with leaves. The unwieldy camouflage, I cannot English tonight, dude, does not fool the deer. Just as it is about to approach the trap, it widens its eyes and flees the scene. Snow White watches in desperation as the escaping deer slowly disappears into the distance. No matter how long Snow White waits in hiding, the deer doesn't return. The trap she made only manages to catch a few small woodland critters. With the small animals in tow, Snow White trudges back towards the post. So this is actually a bad ending if I am not mistaken. Let's check it out. Yeah, a bad ending and escaped deer does not return. Right, so we go again, check the forest. Let's take all the procedures back again. Shoot with the rifle, turn to the left. To pick the fence, we take everything this time. So there's the item, the camo suit and bow and arrow. Snow White apologizes and takes the dry food, bow and arrow and camouflage outfit. She must survive for the sake of her colleagues. If that means benefiting from someone else's death, then so be it. I mean, under such conditions, many will put morals aside, I suppose. I don't know what I will do myself, but yeah, I agree that some will do so. Snow White prepares to hunt. She starts to set a trap using the metal wire to get from the fence, and well, there she goes again. She returns to the spot, and this time, to conceal, she will use the camouflage outfit. The deer is fooled by Snow White's camouflage and comes closer. The moment its foot is clamped by the trap, Snow White shoots it with an arrow. Snow White captures the deer. Looking forward to the delicious dinner she will be having that night, she returns to the post in good spirit. So there we go. That's a normal ending. Deer meat tastes good. And I think that pretty much completes the forest, actually. So let's go for the riverbank. Scarlet appears before Snow White, who is on her way to explore the riverbank. Dost thou intend on rusticating by the riverside? Prithee allow me to accompany you. Snow White nods. Scarlet is excited about getting to see some fish, which she hasn't seen in a while. Do you know how to fish? Answer yes. Snow White answers yes, so Scarlet tells her to try making a fish rod. Given thou doth intend on fabricating a fishing rod, I shall search for a suitable piece of wood. Scarlet begins looking for wood nearby and asks Snow White how long the tree branch should be cut. So you can choose to either cut it shorter or cut it longer. Honestly, my first choice was to cut the branch longer, like the obvious choice for a fishing rod, but let's go with shorter. Snow White notices the branch is shorter than she expected. Scarlet asks if it is what Snow White actually wanted. Snow White ponders if she should use the branch for something else. Snow White passes the branch to Scarlet and tells her to sharpen one end. Does thou intend on fashioning a fishing spear? After a while, they end up with a decent fishing spear. The fishing spear embeds itself in the bottom of the river. Alas, another miss. Snow White and Scarlet continue throwing their self-made spear with all their might, but every throw ends up with it either stuck in the riverbed from excess force or moving erratically due to poor aim. Perhaps we should entertain the notion of returning to a fishing rod. As Snow White listens to Scarlet, she stares at the fish in the river. It swims away slowly, as if mocking them. She manages to catch a huge fish with her bare hands. The fish Snow White is holding tries to writhe free from her grip. I had no idea thou art capable of such feats. I figured I'd give it a shot, and it worked. Despite expending so much energy earlier, the thought of having a good meal later that night gives them both a second wind, and they begin catching fish with their bare hands. Snow White fills the pail with fish and returns to the post full of delight, discreetly wiping the drool forming on the edges of her mouth. Yeah, that's Snow White always drooling for food. Normal ending, hail to the king of fishing. Alright, we go again to the riverbank. So, she knows how to fish. Now we tell her to cut it longer, I believe. There were no choices in between. Scarlet brings over a branch with the perfect length. Snow White is very satisfied. To make the fishing rod, she either rummages through her pockets or takes out the metal wire she has with her. For that you will have had to explore the forest properly first. I mean, there is a possibility of not having the metal wire at this point if you had not played the event earlier, of course. So there is that too. But let's see the other choice anyways. She rummages through her pockets. Snow White doesn't find anything she could use to make a fishing rod. He gives it some further thought and decides she can use the branch to make something else. Snow White passes the branch to Scarlet and tells her to sharpen one end, as though intent on fashioning a fishing spear. After a while, they end up with a decent fishing spear. So it's pretty much the same ending as the other one. So let's return. So instead, she takes out the metal wire she has with her. Snow White is good with her hands and she manages to make a fishing rod using the metal wire and the tree branch. The two head to the river to begin fishing. Snow White uses the fishing rod. Snow White stands by the river with the fishing rod she has made. She closes her eyes and tries to sense the movements of the fish. A long time passes but nothing happens. Snow White, whose eyes are closed, can feel Scarlet nodding off behind her. The fish also seem to have fallen asleep, as nothing is biting the rod. So this is a bad ending. The fish have fallen asleep. Let's go again to a riverbank. It seems Scarlet doesn't know how to fish after all. But still, let's answer yes. Cut it longer. Oh, it wasn't that one. Take out the metal wire. And she passes the fishing rod to Scarlet this time around. Scarlet is surprised that Snow White handed the rod to her. As she lowers the rod into the water, she proclaims that Snow White won't regret entrusting her with it. Scarlet says that no fish will come if she doesn't move the rod, and claims they can only catch a big fish if they shake the rod. She begins swinging the rod as she speaks. Almost immediately they catch something. A pocket knife? Scarlet has caught a pocket knife. She hasn't seen something like this in a long time and stares at it forlorn. Snow White recalls a memory with Scarlet from long ago. That day, they were starving. Though they had succeeded in their mission, additional supplies were taking a long time to arrive as they were in a secluded place difficult for humans to reach. I'm so hungry I could eat a horse. To a food lover like Snow White, enduring hunger is the worst form of torture imaginable. Suddenly, Scarlet tosses a pocket knife at the birds flying by. Scarlet takes the fallen bird and passes it to Snow White. Pretty though not be lost in melancholy, grilled is. The bird was tiny, but Snow White isn't concerned about whether it will be feeling or not. Rather, she is shocked that Scarlet is willing to kill something merely because she is hungry. Snow White mutters, "This is so cruel," which causes Scarlet to laugh. So killing a tiny bird is cruel, but killing a bigger bird is perfectly okay? It's not like that. Do not allow thyself to be vexed thusly about that. All lives have to end. Scarlet's nonchalance prompts Snow White to ask another question. How about us? Will we die as well? Scarlet chuckles. Flowers are fleetly fading. All things eventually come to an end. Scarlet stared at her katana. This is the lesson she gave me when she became my blade. Flowers are fleetly fading. Snow White utters, startling Scarlet. My memory of this still rings true. Snow White nods, sending a smile across Scarlet's face. Precisely, nothing lasts forever, and we are no exception. With that, Scarlet hovers the rod over the river again. Behind her, Snow White stares at her quietly. There you go. That's a true ending. Completely fading. Alright, let's go to a river once again. Gotta explore another option. So let's go again. Yes. Color to cut it shorter, longer, doesn't really matter. We made the thingy. We pass it over to Scarlet, and it seems there were no more choices. Yeah, there were no more choices over there. So what if Snow White doesn't know how to fish? Let's answer no. Snow White answers no, so Scarlet says she will personally make a fishing rod for Snow White. We shall require wood if we are to fashion a fishing rod. I'll look for some. Snow White looks around and fires a rifle at a tree that looks to be the right size. The tree sways a few times before collapsing on a pile of nearby rocks. I only require a few tree branches. Oh, whoops. The sight of Snow White obliterating the tree makes Scarlet feel slightly uneasy, but she feels somewhat reassured upon seeing how embarrassed Snow White seems for her slip-up. Scarlet runs over to fetch some branches from the fallen tree. However, Scarlet is unable to make a fishing rod due to her poor crafting skills. Feeling embarrassed, Scarlet says she will try to fish with her sword. I don't know how will that go, but yikes. Scarlet stands by the river with her sword and lightly swings it at the fish lethargically swimming by. Whoosh! Whoops! The fish is cut in two and floats to the surface of the water. I thus believe there is a validity to this idea yet. I shall swing it properly this time. Scarlet adjusts her stance as she stands at the riverbank. Snow White is filled with a renewed sense of hope that they will actually catch a bevy of fish, and her eyes sparkle. However, as Scarlet swings her sword with full force, the river is dyed a dreadful red, as all the fish are sliced and diced. Both Scarlet and Snow White stare at the massacre. Massacre? I don't know how you spell that word in English, I barely use it. Silently and return to the pose without a word. It might be better to do a bit of searching than rely on your clicks for it. Yeah, bad ending for your butcher. Imagine cutting the fish like that. Damn. I will render them useless, basically. Alright, so we go again. Answer no. Only there is a tree. Says she will search the pile of rock, so Scarlet will search, actually. Perchance there are canned goods buried under these rocks. Hast thou considered this? Snow White nods and begins rummaging through the rock pile. After they move away some rocks, some supplies hidden under the pile are gradually revealed. Scarlet and Snow White exchange glances. Their hunch was right. Filled with a renewed sense of vigor, they begin lifting up more rocks. Just then, Snow White feels something. It's a parasol. While looking at it, a memory of Dorothy resurfaces. Back when humans lived on the surface and not in the Ark, Dorothy loved using the parasol that had been given to them as a gift. Supplies were plentiful then. Nikke's don't get tanned even if they are exposed to the sun. So Snow White was curious as to why Dorothy was using the parasol. Why do you use that thing anyway? It's not like we need it. With a smile, Dorothy answered her. If I use this place won't feel as much like a battlefield. Instead, it'll feel more like a warm and sunny Eden. Eden? How should I put it? It makes me feel important. When the Ark is built, we will all be sheltered safely under the same parasol. Snow White couldn't make head or tail of whatever Dorothy was saying. What Dorothy was saying. Will the Ark really become our Eden? When peace is restored, will the humans want us to stay under the same parasol as them? Of course. Aware. As Snow White stared at Dorothy, her expression was full of such hope for the future that she couldn't bring herself to refute her in any way. Oh, a parasol. Dorothy will be most smitten with this. Scarlet proclaims as she approaches Snow White. Snow White nods quietly. Both of them feel this will be the perfect gift for Dorothy, who is doing her best to be a fine leader. They bring the parasol back to the post. True ending, life under the parasol. Alright, I think we have achieved all of the riverbank, but I'm not certain. I will explore everything here now. Real quick. Yeah, I think we pretty much did. Go through the pockets. Same ending. Actually, if you did the ending that goes here before doing this part, it will just allow you to come back here. And if you have the metal wire, of course, you can go through this. Right? Alright, yeah, I think I completed the riverbank. So if we answer no, we were presented with either Scarlet using the sword or searching the pile of rocks, right? Yeah. Pretty much. Alright, so we're done with the riverbank. Let's go to the suburb. Rapunzel appears before Snow White, who is on her way to explore the church. Come with me today. I've been to the suburb. Snow White nods. Snow White and Rapunzel head to the outskirts and gaze at the structures demolished by raptures. They attempt to find a recognizable structure they can check out. So, in here you want to check out the apartment buildings before the factory. So let's go there. Snow White and Rapunzel go to the apartment buildings to look for daily necessities, but most of them have been completely obliterated from rapture attacks. There are only 3 houses they can still enter. Snow White enters the house on the left. Let's go for that first. Walking into the house on the left, the two find the posters of the Ark and lots of lottery tickets scattered inside. The lottery tickets have Try Again printed on them. Amongst the pile there is a cookbook. On the pages, sentences such as recipes anyone can learn, become a master in your own kitchen today can be made out. Rapunzel says it would be nice if they can find food and make some dishes to bring back to the post. Snow White asks Rapunzel if she needs a cookbook. Rapunzel says you can choose either needs it or doesn't need it, and it's gonna be the same, basically. The only difference is that you won't have the cookbook, which is eventually going to be needed for another ending. Let's say she needs them. There is no harm in having a cookbook, Rapunzel says. Snow White agrees with her. Feeling they won't be able to find anything else in the house, they decide to. You can either check out the other houses or head straight to the factory. It's always better to check out the other houses first, because that way you can get more items. Let's go to one in the middle, actually. Here you can choose to either leave the door alone or try opening the door. They come to the house in the middle and see a bunch of empty cans piled up neatly in a corner of the empty room. It seems that someone else has been here. While most of the doors are either open or broken, they find one door that is tightly closed. If you choose to leave the door alone, for now looking for supplies and food is the top priority. Upon picking up the familiar smell of death coming from inside, they decide not to open the door. Feeling they won't be able to find anything else in the house, they decide to. So that's where it leads you. It's pretty much the same with the other houses. Like whenever you don't decide to do a thing, it will just make you get back. So let's try opening the door. There is a bed in the room. On the bed lie 2 bodies, their fingers intertwined. Snow White and Rapunzel wordlessly look at the photo frame on the bedside table. A couple smiles happily in the picture. Seems like they're a couple. After looking at the picture for a while, Rapunzel says she wants to mourn the deceased and decides to take the photo frame with her. Feeling they won't be able to find anything else, check out the other houses. And we are missing the one on the right. The house on the right is entirely empty. Rapunzel posits the former residents must have taken refuge somewhere else. Snow White looks at the empty room and discovers a dried white flower that has fallen on the ground. There is a buzzing in her ear, then a voice rings out. "This flower is more like you than me." Snow White? Rapunzel's voice brings Snow White back to reality. Despite Rapunzel's concern, Snow White insists everything is fine and tells her not to worry. Snow White then suggests they continue their search. Rapunzel agrees and walks away, while Snow White, you can choose to either pick up the dried flower or leave it there, but picking it up it's important as it will be opener for another ending. Snow White feels an unprecedented wave of emotions and surreptitiously takes the dried white flower. So, now that we checked out all the houses, let's go to the factory. Believing there might not be many supplies or food available in the apartments, they instead decide to check out the factory. The factory seems to be a former refuge for the humans. Although some parts of the building have collapsed, there are some blankets and canned goods scattered around. Rapunzel and Snow White venture further into the factory. The inside of the factory is littered with all manner of supplies, but the cans of food are either emptied or spoiled. Everything else is unsalvageable. Snow White and Rapunzel want to continue looking for things they can use, so they... And here it's like a decision for different endings. You can either break a lock, open a locked door and walk in, or walk into a room where the curtains are closed. So let's go for the first one. When they break the locked door open and walk in, they see canned goods and other supplies all placed in a neat pile, although there aren't many of them. This must be a room that had been used as a storage. Snow White and Rapunzel begin gathering up the canned goods. In the midst of their scavenging, Snow White discovers a book under the couch. You can either leave the book alone or take the book. If you take the book, that will lead to an ending actually. The book under the couch is a dirty magazine. Oh, what is this? Rapunzel walks over and stares at the magazine. Whoa, I thought this series ended already. Her eyes gleam as she speaks. Snow White suddenly remembers a previously forgotten memory of her, Rapunzel and Red Hood. What are you showing, Snow White? Rapunzel covers Snow White's eyes. Not being particular about her reading material, Red Hood has just passed a dirty magazine to Snow White. Rapunzel blushes and urges Red Hood to throw away this smut. Undeterred, Red Hood continues to tease Rapunzel with the racy magazine. While Snow White watches them argue, she realizes the animosity between the Red Hood and Rapunzel has given way to a real friendship. You're not the slightest bit shy about reading this kind of stuff? Oh, you still remember that? Snow White nods, while Rapunzel smiles. How could I forget? After going through that, I don't think anyone else can make me feel embarrassed ever again. Rapunzel takes the dirty magazine from Snow White. I can read things even more salacious than this now. Red Hood will be shocked if she saw me now, wouldn't she? Actually, she's probably over the moon that she managed to influence me. Rapunzel returns the magazine to Snow White. I kept feeling Red Hood was embarrassing me on purpose, so I was annoyed, but now I kinda miss it. Rapunzel stops talking and begins collecting the rest of the scattered canned food. Meanwhile, Snow White watches her quietly. True ending, a friendship she misses despite the embarrassment. Let's go to the suburb again. Sorry guys, allergies acting up. So let's head straight to the factory now. So we broke open a locked door and walked in, right? And we took the book. This time let's leave the book alone. The two are related as they didn't expect to find such a major haul. As Rapunzel looks at the canned goods, she remembers how the atmosphere at the post has been fairly gloomy lately. Dorothy has also been rather morose as well. Rapunzel suggests that they make some dishes and give everyone else a pleasant surprise. Snow White agrees with the idea. Rapunzel can choose either to have Rapunzel cook based on intuition or follow the cookbook. Of course, you require the book for that, which you can get from one of the houses as we saw. So let's go based on intuition. Rapunzel steps forward confidently, claiming she has always loved cooking, even as a human. As Snow White watches Rapunzel, she feels a little anxious. An unknown substance boils in the pot. What was once delicious food is now a disastrous pile of black mush. It can no longer even be considered food. What in the world did you put in there? I just made it the way I did before. Snow White is speechless. He snatches the final can of food before Rapunzel can destroy that as well, and returns to the post. Bad ending, by the way. Become a master in your own kitchen tomorrow? Oh, sorry, I forgot to check the hint. Regardless, let's just continue. Let's not dial into that. Alright, so let's head for the factory. Oh, sorry. I just auto-clicked. So let's break open the locked door again. We don't take the book, right? And Rapunzel follows the cookbook and begins cooking. Rapunzel says she happens to have a cookbook handy that she will follow. She announces she will use this canned food to make something delicious and goes out to start a fire. As Snow White watches Rapunzel, her anxiety slowly builds. An appetizing soup boils in the huge pot. Its aroma fills the factory, and Snow White begins to drool. Can I have a taste? Of course. Rapunzel confidently ladles some soup into a small can and passes it to Snow White. Snow White puts a spoonful of soup in her mouth. She's filled with pure ecstasy. How is it? Does it taste okay? It's wonderful. Rapunzel's mood improves when she sees Snow White's obvious delight. With the big pot and canned goods in tow, they return to the post triumphant. This here is a normal ending. Become a master in your own kitchen today! Yeah, not tomorrow. Let's go again to the suburb. We once again check out the factory. But this time around, we walk into a room where the curtains are closed. What is this? There are matches, extinguished candles, pictures of people hanging in the room. A line is written on the wall. May you rest in peace. This must be a place where they mourn the dead. The two look around for a while and leave after mourning for a short while. Let's go for that choice now. Rapunzel and Snow White light the candles with matches on the floor and pray for a while. They then walk out of the room and open the locked door. When they break the locked door open and walk in... Alright, so you are just taken back to the other ending, right? So this time, for the actual ending, let's take out the photo frame and begin praying. Rapunzel places the photo frame they got from the apartment building among with the pictures on the floor and lights the candles with a match. Once all the candles in the room are lit, Rapunzel kneels down quietly. Without a word, Snow White stands back and watches. You can choose to either stay with Rapunzel or leave her alone and explore another location. For that, you have to achieve the step she failed to take, which is in the meadow, actually. So let's go with stay with Rapunzel. Snow White asks, "Why are you doing this?" "What? They're already dead." Rapunzel answers, "Death is not the end. The marks these people made during their lives will not disappear simply because they are no longer with us. Everything truly ends only when everyone who remembers them is gone." Rapunzel stands up and looks at Snow White. "So, I decide to remember. I don't want them to be forgotten, for everything to come to an end and rob them of all meaning. So I will keep praying to remember the precious lives they used to lead. I will acknowledge their deaths and bid them farewell. Death is not the end. The real end happens when one's existence is forgotten. Snow White falls into deep thought. She has never thought of it that way. Rapunzel looks at Snow White, who is lost in thought, and kneels once again to pray. While Snow White watches Rapunzel pray, she asks, "Then how do we bid someone farewell?" Look them in the eyes, say to them, "Be well." Normal ending, to bid you farewell. Which is also a requirement for another ending in the forest, if I recall correctly. So let's go again to the suburb. I think this is the last one that we have pending. Let's go for the factory. Then again, walk into a room where the curtains are closed. Take out the photo frame. Now we leave Rapunzel alone and explore another location. Wait a second. Did we? Yeah. Yeah, there were no other choices in there. So yeah, let's go for that. And to open the door, you need the dried flower. Otherwise, you just have to go back. Snow White leaves Rapunzel behind and begins exploring the factory again. She smells the familiar scent of flowers. Snow White follows the scent and finds a door towards the back. Snow White opens the door. Snow White takes out the dried flower she got from the apartment and opens the door. As the door opens, a sea of white flowers greets Snow White. He knows the name of these flowers. They remind Snow White of her. Memories of her come rushing back. Memories Snow White has been wanting to forget. She was always fond of her. Being together with her was always a happy experience. Snow White was never happier than when they had chatted in a prairie full of flowers just like this. This flower has the same name as you. Yes, that's where I got my name. Snow White loved that flower ever since. But now, it seems like this flower is more like you than me. No, this flower still resembles her. The pure, strong, and lovely Snow White. That's what it originally was meant to say. But Snow White thinks the purest, strongest, and loveliest Lily-Wise. Snow White runs towards the field of Lily-Wise before her. After staring at the flowers for a while, as if in a daze, she sits down and caresses them. "Can I go and see you, please?" The sky turns red. Snow White continues to cradle the Lily-Wise in her arms, even when Rapunzel comes looking for her after praying. True ending, the beautiful Lily-Wise. And I think that's all with the suburb. Let's go for the meadow. And I actually have to grind this. So let's go. Snow White walks towards the field. The sun's rays cascade across the peaceful meadow. At the far end, there is a stone coffin encircled by towering trees. It is there that she slumbers. Snow White gazes from afar, half in a daze. You can choose to go back, but it will just return you to the main screen. Walk forward, memory capsule required. Let's go for it. Snow White holds the memory capsule. Although Snow White isn't confident about maintaining her composure whilst facing them, she musters the courage to step forward. There is a buzzing sound, then a voice rings out. "You're Snow White, aren't you? Hello, I'm Lee." She can remain stationary or walk forward. If you don't have the Lily-Wise flower, you just have to remain stationary. Snow White remains where she is. He doesn't have the courage to move forward and meet her. "I'm not ready. I don't deserve to see her. I haven't achieved anything at all. I can't even remember her face or her name. How can I possibly face her? Not yet. It's not yet time. I can't face her yet." Snow White fails to take another step. After taking that one step towards her, Snow White stops. And this will grant you the ending, the step that she failed to take. Well, the step she failed to take. Snow White can only walk forward when she remembers her name. Lily-Wise, by the way. Let's go to the meadow. Or meadow. I always forget how you spell that. So let's walk forward, bring the capsule, right? Then she goes forward again with the lily-wise flower this time. Snow White looks at the lily-wise flower. It was Lily-Wise's favorite. I have to go. At long last, Snow White makes that step he failed to take before. Live with the flower. A coffin lies on the vast meadow, surrounded by soaring trees. Lily-Wise, the first Nikke, the leader of the goddess squad. Snow White's hero, who was stronger and more beautiful than anyone else. After a long journey, Snow White finally arrives before the slumbering Lily-Wise. Bunches of flowers adorn her grave. A grief-stricken, Snow White salutes. Hello. Lily-Wise, my hero. Never did I feel I was in danger, so long as you were there, on the battlefield with me. Never once did I retreat from anything. My honor was your honor, and your happiness was mine. So I didn't want to accept the fact that you won't be joining me on my future journey. I didn't want to accept the fact that I won't be able to see you laugh once again. But it's time to say farewell. You gave me a mission. That mission alone proves you once existed in this world. It will be the reason this world remembers you and your great achievements. So please, my sister, my colleague, my soulmate, my hero, be well. Snow White places the Lily-Wise flower on Lily-Wise's coffin. Finally, he bids her farewell. True ending, live with the flower. So let's go again to the meadow. So I think we completed walk forward. Let's look around. Achieve ending, live with the flower. Snow White decides to check the surroundings. She slowly realizes that she has never given this place a proper once-over. As she started to move in the direction where she can see the ark, bang, Snow White accidentally kicks something. She looks down and finds a dog tag, yet another memory that had remained buried for so long resurfaces. Snow White remembers that person she has previously forgotten. He said he was a mercenary, but he didn't seem like the military type. He was the man who became our leader, who claimed that he would suppress the raptures. Commander, when did it begin? His bluntness and impertinence gave way to tenderness, and he began treating us like humans. I hope you don't get hurt again. Lily-Wise kissed his dog tag. He gazed at her then, the affection evident in his eyes. At that moment, Snow White realized something. She was the one who changed him. Snow White picks up the dog tag beside her feet. His name is carved on it. Why is this here? Snow White can't bring herself to leave it there. To leave it here, so she decides to bring it to Lily-Wise. Snow White remembers how she loved him just as much as he loved her. So we achieved the true ending, tame dog tag, and the new ending recorded. Number 20, by the way. Oh, it's almost the last ending also. And this is the last item, the Commander dog tag. The dog tag worn by the commander of the goddess squad. It was discovered in the meadow near the entrance of the ark. It reminds her of the kiss Lily-Wise gave to the commander as a prayer for his safety. Let's put the dog tag into her coffin to memorialize their fervent love. Oh, that's cute of Snow White. Let's go to recollection. 20 out of 21. Nice. The last true ending. Let's go back. And let's do the last exploration here at the meadow. Start the search. Snow White walks towards the field. The sun's rays cascade across the peaceful meadow. At the far end, there is a stone coffin encircled by towering trees. It is there that she slumbers. Snow White gazes from afar, half in a daze. So let's look for Lily-Wise's coffin this time, with the commander's dog tag around. Walking out of the post, Snow White says goodbye to everyone and sets off on a long journey. Snow White decides to go to Lilywise's coffin, which she has not visited in a long time. There is something she must tell Lilywise before she leaves. With a heavy heart, Snow White comes to Lilywise's coffin. She takes one step and then another. But Snow White accidentally kicks something. There is a familiar-looking piece of rock on the ground. It's the sharp corner of the coffin. Snow White lifts her head and looks at Lilywise. It doesn't particularly look... No, yeah, it does look like the border of a coffin. It's gone. Her head is gone. In the shattered coffin, only her body remains. The white Lilywise flower has black scuff marks from being trampled on. Desperately, Snow White searches her surroundings. It's gone. Why? How can this be happening? Her face is gone, only her body is left. No one will remember her this way. I haven't achieved anything yet. I haven't accomplished anything she expected of me. Will her story really end so meaninglessly? No way. I refuse to accept this. This can't happen to her. Not to Lilywise. A sound emits from somewhere. Buzzing. The sound of machines. Great intruders that disturb the ground. Raptures. Raptures. The black marks upon the white flower. They say they took away her head. Exterminate them. I will exterminate them all. I will find her head. I have to fulfill her legacy, what she wished for. I hope we can. I have to save her legacy. I have to save the humans. I hope we can save. I have to save her legacy. I have to save the humans. I hope we can save the humans. Snow White gets to her feet and walks forward. She will exterminate all the raptors on the surface and recover the human world. I don't know, I cannot really make sense of the characters in here, like hey head, something like that. Hidden ending. Hey head has disappeared. Alright, so here is the same dialogue that we just read, and that's it. We have finished White Memory, it seems. Or at least we have all the endings now, right? We have all 21 endings. And if we start the search... Oh, wait! There was still something here. Snow White walks towards the field. The sun's rays cascade across the peaceful meadow. At the far end, there is a stone coffin encircled by towering trees. So what am I missing here? What if I go back? He still doesn't have the courage to walk forward. Snow White goes back in hopes of finding something that will give her courage. Oh, okay. Literally goes back. But it says they're all complete. And yet I'm only at 91%. Let's walk forward. Let's remain stationary. That's an end, right? Let's walk forward again. That's another end. So let's look around. There is the dog tag. And there is another end. Let's look again for Lilywise's coffin. But and now it is complete. Dude. Okay, bro. Oh, it must have been the go back. Right, for some reason it didn't complete it then, but I guess that's about it, YouTube. We have completed the White Memory, and well, for those who are not yet at the end game, the meadow is a huge freaking spoiler, dude. Like, legit. We endgame players, I mean, those of us who are already over chapter 20, basically, or at least in chapter 20, over the half of it, sort of know that Lily Wise, I mean, this is merely a speculation, but it seems Lily Wise became the queen of the Raptures, but we are not certain of that. What we know for sure is that her head went missing, and this probably means that the Raptors probably took it. I mean, given the fact that there were Raptor marks on her body as the story stated, it's pretty feasible that this is the case. Now, what is really going to happen? That is yet to be known. I mean, we have chapters 21 and 22 to explore. I haven't done so myself, as I haven't been able yet to beat Nihilister as of today, May 16, by the way, in my type zone. But yeah, it's been a nice freaking story. I hope you guys enjoyed this and the previous video with the entire OverZone story as much as I did. And hope to see you next time. Have a great one, YouTube.